A young semi-unknown American in front of all European cycling legends of the 90s. A cyclist from Texas in a very rainy World Championship. Do you want to know what happened in the 1993 Cycling World Championships? Then follow my wheel and I'll tell you. Our protagonist today is a cyclist known to all. With a turbulent history, he has gone from hero to villain. We all know his past, his 7 tours, and his guilty plea. But on this channel, we focus on sporting successes, and that's why today's story is about a young Lance Armstrong before his illness, at a time when he began to emerge in the professional peloton as a rider with a great future. If you like our topic today, please subscribe and like. (1993) Cycling fans focused their eyes on Oslo for the dispute of the Cycling World Championship. On the start line was a young Texan of 21 years old, the champion of his country, to face the great European stars of the time. The American began to make a name for himself in professional cycling with some important victories, highlighting above all the one achieved that same year in the Tour de France at Verdúm, in addition to other very good performances, especially in one-day races. However, the American cyclist had some trouble fitting into the peloton. Armstrong came from the triathlon world. During his adolescence, he dedicated himself to training hard, but alone. It was very difficult to him to ride in a peloton, and he was completely unaware of certain codes within professional cycling. In addition, his arrogant character caused him enmities among his colleagues. He really liked to challenge the great champions, all a Texas cowboy within the European peloton. His quality and potential were undeniable, but no cycling fan had him among their favorites for the 1993 race. We could say that, for many fans, he was an unknown rider. According to experts, the favorites were the Spanish Miguel Indurain, the Italians Buño and Moreno Argentine. Nobody bet on the young American. The 1993 World Championship was a race marked by rain. It was a complicated urban route with some really difficult curves, which, because of the wet asphalt, became a skating rink. Many riders touched the ground. Some even had to retire. Others continued in the race, with damage that prevented them from performing at their best, such as the Italian Buño, who had to retire a few laps later. It was a selection race where placement, teamwork, career reading, and luck were going to have great importance. It was August, and the cyclist who had contested the tour remained excellently fit. The race didn't have a clear dominator. The Spaniards were trying to wrestle control for their leader, Miguel Indurain. The Spaniard participated in the world event with the clear objective of winning the gold medal. The Italians and the French made it complicated throughout the race with continuous escape attempts. One of the most important cuts was formed by France's Motet, Birenki, and Durand. But quickly, the Spaniards threw it down with Delgado, Malion, and Escartin. With a couple of laps to go, one of the most important escape attempts took place. The Danish Bjarnar Riis came to have almost 20 seconds of advantage. It was the Italian team that hunted down the combative Danish cyclist, who would try again a few miles after being hunted. Right after, it was another of the important men, Claudio Chiappucci, who tried his luck, taking to his wheel the Frenchman Gerard Rouet and the Dutchman Frank Maassen. All 3 riders got a small advantage over the peloton. The race thus reached the only hard area of the route. It was Indurain himself who changed the pace in search of the leading trio. The only one who can follow the Spaniard was the young Lance Armstrong, thus forming an interesting group of 5 riders at the head of the race. The 5 cyclists understood each other perfectly and achieved a few meters of advantage over the peloton, in which no team wanted to take responsibility. Spain, Holland, France, and Italy were represented in the breakaway. The young American, Armstrong, seemed not to be invited to this party. In the rain, the 5 riders moved toward the finish line in search of the rainbow jersey. However, they began to watch each other too much, and a small group of 5 other cyclists, including the Dane Bjarnar Riis, led the race, and the peloton itself also lurked too close. The race was getting more and more exciting. The peloton didn't quite catch up with the group of 10 when the race entered the last lap with Massin and Laurissin a few meters ahead of the group of Indurain, who, in turn, passed a few seconds before the peloton. Just then, the young American increased his pace to hunt the two men in the head, something he achieved very quickly. The trio got a small advantage over their pursuers, but the understanding was null. Thus, we arrived at the only ramp of the circuit where, with a brutal attack, Armstrong managed to abandon his rivals to leave alone in search of victory. Although perhaps it was too early, since behind, Indurain and the other favorites were increasing the pace, Armstrong was at the height of his short career. The pursuers began to hesitate, something Armstrong used to increase the advantage: 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 20 seconds. The American was risking a lot on a very dangerous circuit, but without risk, there is no glory. And so, with a display of power, demonstrating all his class, his strength, his courage, and his ambition, this young American, Lance Armstrong, reached the finish line proclaiming himself, at only 21 years old and ahead of the legend Miguel Indurain, cycling world champion. Thanks for watching the video. Subscribe and like. And if you want to continue enjoying with the best cyclists in history, don't miss this.